Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this session of Authors in Conversation. I'm Jane Turner from writewithjane.com, and I have with me today Fiona Redding, who is the person behind the Happiness Hunter podcast, which I'd love to hear more about in a moment, Fiona. But what we're celebrating here is her new book, It Is Possible.
Jane, it's such an interesting conversation that we are about to embark on, I think, because I've been really reflecting on this and, why did I write the book? And I started writing this book in 2020 during COVID, when I had basically had to massively pivot my business, get everything online. And I don't know, I was out walking one day and this book, which I'd always known was going to be written, and it was like the thing just landed in my head, and the title as well. So when I was asked, who is this book for and what are you writing this book for? Like, what's the audience? What's the outcome? And my answer to that was, I would like someone who's in pretty deep trouble in their life to be able to go to the library and borrow this book and have what they needed to kind of step them on the path for change or transformation, and to really give them hope that there was a pathway out and these were the steps that they could take. But when I was talking to my daughter, who's incredibly insightful and intuitive, and we were just discussing various things, she's 12, and big part of the narrative or the story, I guess, around the Happiness Hunter and the genesis and everything behind that was about me giving up drinking and changing my life through giving up drinking and starting meditation. But there's actually another piece around that story that I've never really shared much in the public forum before, because I didn't really feel like it was my story to share in a way, but also too, I think I was a little bit too close to it. And Vivi and I were discussing it this week, and she said, you actually need to start talking about that and not the drinking. And I was like, that's very interesting that you've said that. So basically, about 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, really was in a very difficult position in my life. But I actually made some decisions that put me in quite compromising positions, in terms of really being an impoverished, homeless, single mother, trying to build a business while I was on Centrelink with the kids in creche, building websites and stuff, trying to make things work. And of course, nothing financially ever really added up, but I kept going because I believed in my vision. And I think that's really this idea of this book, is that it really doesn't matter where we are in our lives. We absolutely have the power within us in this present moment to change our future trajectory. And that's really now, as I've sort of come to the point of real publication for this book, where I'm actually, that's the story. It's truly a story of hope. Like, wherever we are, we can change it. And if you apply what this book is teaching, which is what I've applied and which is what I've shared with hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, you can create change. But you have to actually do the application of it. You can't just read the book. There's actually action that needs to be taken with that as well. So yeah, in a nutshell, a very roundabout way, that's really why the book was written, just to help somebody who maybe doesn't have access to much finances, maybe has never come across any of this stuff before, but they know something needs to change, that they can just literally go to the library and borrow this book.
And I love the really practical aspects of the book, where it's about, okay, get a piece of paper now, draw a line, and you're putting, this. So there's no barrier to a person being able to do that, except potentially that thing that some people will say, oh, just skip over the exercises now and come back to them, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But really, if you take action, then amazing things can happen.
I think to really truly create change or transformation, we need to be in a position of some pain. Like, that's just the reality, whether we like it or not, right? But the pain creates the opportunity or the opening for us to actually have the desire. That contrast gives us a desire for something different or something better. People that are kind of okay in their life, or just don't really want to look at anything, are not naturally going to want to read this book, I don't think, because it's challenging.
And you alluded to a moment ago that you have some vision. Tell me a little bit more. Where do you see this book going?
So I have a vision that this book is available in every library across Australia. And I've got an idea to actually make that happen. And that feels really exciting for me, because I know when we originally connected was this idea of actually developing the publicity strategy or the marketing strategy for this book. It felt so overwhelming and so heavy and big, because I'm not a publicist and I'm not a marketer. I'm a person who's written a book, and I'm a person who can teach what is in the book, and I want to share that with people. You know, like in this kind of forum where you and I are having a conversation, very happy to do that. But actually getting from that point to that point was like, what's the bridge? What's the strategy for that? And I'm like, I'm just going to hand it over. Anyway, I've had this idea whereby basically if somebody buys a copy of the book, I will donate a copy of the book to a library and let them know what library it's going to be donated to. So it's actually like this brilliant marketing / publicity strategy, because how I'm going to get them to share that they've bought the book, and I don't mind where they buy it from, whether they buy it from me or an online or through the audio book or whatever, have to take a screenshot, like a photo, share it on social media, tag me in it, and then I'll let them know in the comments what library the book goes to.
That is very clever and also generous. It's a great thing, because our libraries are important. It's a place that a lot of people do go for respite of some kind, and they are surrounded by books, and whether they have money to buy books or not is irrelevant. But we know some people don't, so that they can get access to this information is really, really important. So well done, though, with this strategy. I think it's genius.
I know. And this is what happens. And then the other thing is that somebody suggested to me as well was ABC Radio. So they often are looking, you know, like radio is always looking for content, and especially in the evenings, you know, overnight when there's all the night shift workers, and they love to talk about books. So then I'm like, okay, well, you know, I've got this two-pronged strategy basically, where I'm going to just do this kind of bringing everybody along with the ride to get to the vision.
Yes.
And I would have done that anyway, but I was like, there's got to be a way where it doesn't just have to be on me. Like, it doesn't just have to be me doing it. We can build something around this real sense of community around getting this book out, because that's really what the book's teaching, right? Like, set the vision, go as big as you can, like every library in Australia. Let's make that happen together. And then with the ABC Radio, just getting in touch with them. But then I'm like, the story about the story becomes the story.
Indeed, that's absolutely right. Yes.
So it's not just about me pitching a book, because, you know, there's millions of books out there. It's like, but what's the story behind that? And I think when I first embarked upon this, there were so many people who had walked the path ahead and shared and provided free resources for people to just stumble across or find when they're ready. And I really wanted to leave a contribution like that as well. Like, that was really important to me. And that's part of the podcast as well. But I just was like, there's got to be a way where, you know, because the thing is, if you truly follow the steps outlined in this book, right? I didn't make up that's how it works. That's how it works. Like, there's universal principles behind that. Like, this is my understanding of how it works. That's going to relate to some people, not to everybody, but to who it does. If you apply what's in the book, you're not going to be in that position for very much longer. Wherever you are, you're going to move. It's because we're moving and taking action and creating an energy and a forward momentum is we attract this law of attraction, right? We attract stuff to us. So because you're clear about what you want to do, and I think there's another really fascinating thing that you mentioned as well, you know, when your back's against the wall, you move. Now, I think personally, I'm one of the luckiest people in the world, right? Because the pain becomes so great that you have to create the change. Now, you're in a position of pain. You had to then behave in a way that you'd never done before that was deeply uncomfortable, but you had no choice. So we've got to stop fearing pain and adversity and challenges and struggle, because if we're really open to it, it enables us to grow. And I think I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, honestly, I personally believe creating a business and writing a book are two of the greatest personal development, honestly, exercises a person can ever do, because there is no escaping from actually having to deal with your stuff to move forward.
Yes, I'd be high-fiving you if we were in the same room. Yeah, I talk about the hero's journey. And initially it was the hero's journey of writing a book, but then it was the hero's journey of building a business. And absolutely, the best personal development tool you could ever imagine is to start a business. And, occasionally we want to just hide under the doona.
Occasionally.
Not an
Every
option,
day.
but yeah, you do need the other piece of this, of course, is that self-care is really important. And of course you cover that. So I'm just curious of the bridge now from the being homeless, and as you say, you're in the pain, so you get stuff done. How did it manifest?
It was like this kind of thing, a whole lot of stuff had happened. And then I was just sort of in this position where I just have to do this. The happiness hunter is what I'm meant to do. This sense of empowerment that I felt and autonomy over my life, and the fact that even though things were very difficult, I was choosing my own path, forging my own destiny. Something about that is very powerful, when you really step into that space of feeling this is the purpose of my existence. And I just was really accepting of the fact that, I was there because of my karma, basically, my past thoughts, my past feelings, my past beliefs, whatever, my past actions had got me to this point. And I had now the evidence to say, well, this is what it is. If you don't, this is what you need to change to move you to where you want to go. And each of the moves I've had over the years, there's been several, have each had a purpose, like healing. I've ended up over the years, kids and I lived with my mum for some time. We lived with my dad for a few weeks over the other side of town. We used to have to travel over the Westgate Bridge every day. During COVID, when we just were going into lockdowns, when I had to pivot the business and start homeschooling the kids, my two kids and I actually moved in with my ex and his wife and their daughter. And we stayed there for 3 months. And that was just the most incredibly challenging, healing experience. And it was like, it's necessary for me to go through these experiences to move forward. It's like there's things that I can clean up here. I don't have to wait till another lifetime or whatever to do it. I can actually have this opportunity to do it now. And so now I'm living in this amazing place in the school zone that we wanted to live in. I've got water views. I don't know if you can see out the back there, and like $1 million views. And I'm only here because I kept the vision and I kept working towards the vision. And I think too, when we are in a position like, say, for example, with me, where I'm teaching this stuff, people resonate with experience, and in deep knowing connects in a different way. So I've always just accepted that where I am and what I'm going through is necessary. And that's been that's empowering too. It's like, okay, and I have the power to change it. So what am I going to do? What do I need to do? What scary action do I need to take? What gap needs to be overcome? What weakness do I need to address? Where do I need to tone it down? Like this constant need, I guess, if you will, to be checking in and deepening my self-awareness and self-understanding wouldn't have happened without all of those experiences.
True.
So there's no judgment to it. It's just like, this is an experience I need to have.
And a very empowering position to share as well. So more power to you for writing the book and helping people who don't necessarily have a connection with you per se. They find the book in the library, or they happen to listen to your podcast as well, because podcasts are so popular, aren't they? But tell me, what tips would you have for anybody who's thinking of writing a book? I always ask the authors this because you've done it now. You've gone the distance.
Ask yourself, what is it that I have to share, and who is it for, and why is it important? And be able to keep bringing yourself back to that, and to just like all the way through, I was like, this is for somebody who will maybe never meet me, who will, maybe they're never going to be able to, fully turn it around, whatever, doesn't matter. How can I help them feel better today in their life where they are, and genuinely coming at it from a place of service rather than from a place of, this is going to make me famous, or a top 10 book, or whatever, even though I've set goals around that, because I think it's important to have those extrinsic motivational factors, but I think it needs to be intrinsically motivated. It needs to be an internal motivation. And if you don't have it, then it's going to be an empty exercise. Also,
the thing about it is that if that urge, that gnawing, that we call it a calling in Hero's Journey, if that never goes away, then sorry, but you really do need to write that book.
I think you just got to go, what is it that I am here to share, and who is it for, and how do I want them to feel? What do I want them to walk away with? So like, even for me, I was like, this is not about people having to go to my website and give me their email address. It's like, because I know I've been in business long enough. Honestly, I know if people want to reach out to me, they'll reach out to me. So I thought I just want someone to be able to read this book and enjoy it without feeling like they're on a big sales pitch.
But on this point, though, where can they get the book? What's the best place for people listening to be able to go to?
So there will be a page on my website. So thehappinesshunter.com, it is possible. It may even be It Is Possible book, I'm not sure yet, but it will be available through all online retailers and also on Audible, or any book streaming device will be available. So you can download it there as well. Or you can go to your local library because it should be there too.
Well, thank you so much, Fiona, for writing this wonderful book, for sharing your wisdom with my audience, and for just generally being there and being you, because I think you're doing some wonderful work through the Happiness Hunter, through the podcast, through all of the beautiful things that you do.